Hello, YouTube coin collectors and stackers. Today we're going to be asking the question, is the 2025 proof set the last proof set to be made at the San Francisco Mint? In other words, is the San Francisco Mint going to be closed to save money? Before I go on, don't forget to like and subscribe. Give the video a thumbs up. Really helps the channel. So let's talk about what's going on at the San Francisco Mint. Well, as we all know, the Department of Government Efficiency has been snooping around and trying to find places to save money. And that's not necessarily a bad thing with the kind of debt that our country is running, the deficits and the debt. It's probably a good thing to try to figure out where to save money. And inevitably, things are going to come along to get targeted that eventually will affect you, right? And as a coin collector, certainly the question of a mint being shut down affects all of us in coin collecting. And the San Francisco Mint has been around for a very long time in one form or another. In the most recent years, since the late 60s, it's predominantly been used for making these proof sets. Of course, it did make some circulating coinage in the late 60s and early 70s as well. We think about the San Francisco Mint, probably some of the most famous coins that come to mind are coins like the 1909 S VDB, the 1912 S Liberty Nickel, which is the key date for that series, with like 235,000 or something minted. And we have other S mints like the 1909 S Indian Head Cent. Of course, we just have the 1909 S. We have like the 1932 S Quarter, the 1893 S Morgan Dollar, and we could go on and on and on and on with these famous, often key date types of coins that came out. And that was in the early days of like San Francisco Mint 1.0. I believe we're in the third mint now, mint number 3, and that mint stands at 155 Herman Street in San Francisco, and it's on the National Register of Historic Places. But apparently it's been targeted by DOGE as a potential way to save money. They sent some guys over there. Apparently the GSA, the General Services Administration, sent some people over there with the DOGE folk to look at some office space. They had no idea when they showed up that it was actually a fully operational mint facility, according to the Coin World article that came out in March. And there's rumors that there's going to be a report coming out or a recommendation coming out to go ahead and shutter this mint and collapse the operations. So does San Francisco go the way of New Orleans, the way of Carson City, Dahlonega, Charlotte? I mean, Dahlonega and Charlotte were really victims of the Civil War more than anything. But of course, New Orleans just became obsolete in the around 1909, I believe, is when they shuttered that. Right about the time Denver opened up, a couple of years earlier, I believe in 1906. But we can look at some of these proof coins. This one from 1983 that have been rolling out of the San Francisco Mint since the late 1960s. During the 1950s, the San Francisco Mint, actually from the 30s to the 50s, they would make circulating coinage. So your typical Jefferson nickels, Roosevelt dimes, Mercury dimes, things of this nature. Of late, in the last many years, they've been making silver proof sets as well. So I wonder, if the question is, where are they going to move this production to? Where are they going to move all this proof set production? Will it be to Philadelphia? Philadelphia is where they used to make proofs. If you have a proof Barber dollar, there was no Barber dollar, half dollar, that would have been minted in Philly. If you have a proof seated Liberty half dollar, that would have been minted in Philly. If you have a proof Walking Liberty half dollar, that would have been minted in Philly, and so on. Indian Head Cent, you name it. So maybe they move it back there. Maybe they move it to somewhere else. I always like this set. There's some cool stuff on this one. West Point. West Point kind of makes sense. West Point is making all of the Eagles, Silver Eagles, gold coins, platinum, and those kind of things, palladium coins. Kind of makes sense they would move it there. But who knows? Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's really hard to say where they'll move this to. But begs the question, what happens with the 2025 proof set? If you think about, ultimately, I believe the mintage limit on this is 420,002. I don't know where they get that number. That's what it says on the Mint's website. 420,002. And if you think about that, it's the first time I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, they've ever put a limit on proof set production. But that's the hard limit there. and it's already more than half sold out. So we're at the end of April, and in the reports last week that came out, they showed that, in fact, the 2025 proof set had surged back to first place, leading sales of mint products. So you wonder how many people are stocking up on this sucker before it essentially becomes goes sold out. And like anything, if this becomes the last year, let's look at some of the things in here. They talk about the Lincoln cent going away. They talk about the Jefferson nickel going away. So if the Lincoln cent goes away and the Jefferson nickel go away, but San Francisco stays open, then this set here may be the last proof set that contains these items. Now, there have been instances in the past where they took a circulating coin out of circulation and continued to make proofs. Think about the trade dollar as one good example of that, where they did that for a few years. So that's possible. The other thing that happens is that they don't get rid of the penny, they don't get rid of the nickel, but instead, they just shut the San Francisco Mint down, in which case, this is the last San Francisco proof set that's made. So this proof set to me is very interesting because there's a number of things that could be going on with it. Number one, again, maybe it's the last one from San Francisco. Number two, if they continue at San Francisco, they might not have these two coins in them anymore. The other thing is that for 2026, they're talking about bringing out some really cool coins for the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, in which case all of these designs may change, in which case this will be the last year of all of these designs. So to me, this is a pivotal year, this 2025 set. It'd be very sad to see the San Francisco Mint close, but it is highly possible and plausible to consolidate all of this under the roof of, say, Philadelphia or West Point or even Denver, if that made sense for them to do that. If you think that San Francisco is only really making these proof sets and they're making fewer and fewer every year because there's just less and less demand for them, then in that case, it kind of makes sense that they would shutter it as they're looking for ways to save money. Now, it would be really sad if they turned that into some sort of a Trump hotel. The San Francisco Mint becomes a hotel or something like this. But it is on the National Register of Historic Places, so tearing it down and redeveloping it would be challenging. Anyway, that's it. That's all I had to say today. Wanted to look at some proof sets. Wanted to sort of talk briefly about the history of the San Francisco Mint, the possibility of it closing, and more importantly, how interesting is it, or how important could this set become for any number of the reasons I discussed. Again, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Give me the thumbs up. I appreciate you guys watching. And as always, happy collecting.